Hello everyone, happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am so excited to share with you the Pretty Pumpkins bundle from the Stampin' Up! August to December Mini Catalogue. Now, this bundle is one that immediately caught my eye because I am a lover of all things fall. Fall for me is cool, crisp days, bright blue skies, fiery trees, and just everything that I love about living in Canada at this time of year. So today I'm going to show you 3 projects that are all about fall. They're inspired by fall colors and of course this beautiful bundle. Now, if you're noticing my voice sounds a little off today, it's because I'm having issues with my voice. So as many of you know, I am a high school music teacher and school started here last week. And actually on Thursday of last week, I completely lost my voice. So it's been an interesting few days. Actually taught on Friday with very little voice at all, and then didn't speak really much all weekend. So I've been trying to preserve my voice as much as possible because I still want to be able to do my lives with you. So if I sound a little croaky or I start coughing, it's not COVID, don't worry. I just have this voice thing going on. I'm actually waiting for a referral to an ENT just to get a scope because I have a feeling I may have some vocal cord issues. Too many years of abusing my voice as a music teacher. But anyway, let's get to some stamping. I'm going to flip the camera. Let's just see who is here right now. Okay. Oh, there we go. We've got Violet and Jamie. And we'll see who else pops up here. I'm not sure. My video isn't actually playing. I don't want to cast it. It's telling me I should cast my video. Not going to do that. Hi, Sonia. Thanks for joining me. All right, so let me flip my camera and we are going to get to some stamping. We are expecting some really nasty thunderstorms here sometime in the next couple hours. So hopefully I'll get through my video before the fireworks start and, you know, Wi-Fi stays up and everything. Today's just one of those, you know, perfect storm, pardon the pun, kind of days where the weather's not necessarily cooperating. My voice is kind of a question mark, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully you'll like my projects and that will make up for all of the potential craziness that could happen. So let me flip my camera and we're going to get to it. All right. Hi, Judy from Wawa. How are you doing? I hope you are well. All right. I have my water glass here. I'm going to keep sipping it in the hopes that my voice makes it through this video. So as I mentioned, we are all about the Pretty Pumpkins bundle today. So this stamp set has some beautiful stamped images, some line art ones that we can color, which we're going to do on one of the projects. A beautiful detailed pumpkin that looks absolutely amazing heat embossed. You're going to see that in action today too. And then some lovely sentiments with really pretty fonts. And then of course we have our coordinating dies. So again, we have dies that cut out the stamped images. And then we have some dies that are shapes. So we have sort of a traditional pumpkin. We have this beautiful detailed sort of vine pattern pumpkin and then some leaves. We'll use most of these today on our projects. So let's set this aside and we are going to get to it. So our first project today is this one. Now, I haven't posted this one yet this week. You will see it on my social media probably tomorrow. But well, I just love this. There's so much going on here. I don't know really where to start. So we are using that beautiful Stitch Greenery background die. We've got the timber embossing folder and then some beautiful pumpkins. So let's get to it. Pull out all my bits here. And we'll get going. So, as I mentioned, we're using that beautiful Stitch Greenery die. This is on Cajun Craze cardstock. Okay, it's 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then I have here a piece of our new Kraft cardstock. So this is in the mini catalog. It comes in a 6 by 6 pack. And I've cut it to 1 3/4 by 5 1/4. So it's going to kind of run just a little bit below center on our die cut panel. Now I've embossed this cardstock with the timber embossing folder, which is perfect for, well, really any season, because it's, well, when does wood grain not work, right? So I'm going to use a little bit of tape. I need to be very gentle because this Kraft cardstock it's not pressed as tightly. So when you apply your adhesive, you just want to make sure that you're not running it too quickly and pulling the layers of cardstock up. So we're going to glue this on to our panel. Hold on, let's make sure that's straight. We're going to put it on about 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom, just like that. Now this is a little bit on the long side, so I'm just going to trim that off, just off that little smidge there to clean that up. Hi Krista, hi Laura, hi Jill, thanks for joining me today. So there is our background panel. Now we're ready to go ahead and glue that onto our card base right away. This is a piece of thick, very vanilla cardstock. I really like, when I'm using the white or the vanilla, I like to use the thick cardstock because it gives some nice weight for a card base. So again, this is 5.5 by 8.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. So we'll just fold that in half along our score line. And then we are going to layer our die cut panel on the front. And again, because of the stitching, the die cut stitching on this, I like to use tape because the liquid glue sometimes actually oozes through the die cut stitching and you kind of get a sticky card front. So to avoid that, I like to use tape when I'm using this particular die. So there we go. Okay. And then we have these gorgeous pumpkins. So this one is that beautiful vine pattern. So you can see what it looks like before you sort of pop out all of the negative bits from the die cut. I have used some adhesive sheets on the back. They are your best friend, especially with this die. There's not a lot of real estate once you pop all of these pieces out to apply glue. So if you forget to put your adhesive sheets on the back, you're going to need to pack your patience because it can be a bit of a challenge to find places to put the glue on this particular die cut. So I'm just going to get rid of my bits. Usually they come off with my backing, and for some reason today they did not, probably because I'm on video. But the nice thing is they're actually quite large pieces, so it doesn't take a long time to pull all of those little bits out. And then we'll get these last couple. They pop out pretty easily. Get rid of those. And a couple more little guys here. Now I have used this particular die cut without removing the negative and just used the solid sort of detailed, it's almost like an embossed die cut, which is also really beautiful. So I'm going to layer this onto my card front right about there. Isn't that pretty? Oh, so gorgeous. And I should mention this is cut from the brushed metallic foil sheets that are also a part of the mini catalog. They're actually a returning product from last year's mini. Now this one is that beautiful detailed pumpkin image, and I've embossed it in copper on brushed copper cardstock, and just look at how gorgeous that is. Can you see that? I hope it shows. It's just so, so pretty. So we're going to layer that just a little bit overlapping with our other pumpkin, and we're going to pop that up using a couple of dimensionals. Before we do, I almost forgot. We are going to add some of these cute little leaves. Now these leaves, you look at them and you kind of go, how is that a leaf? But they're actually designed to kind of curl around the stem on your pumpkins so that they actually look like a real leaf. It looks like they're growing from the pumpkin. And I love that. I think that's just such a thoughtful and creative way for Stampin' Up! To do that. So I am going to add one glue dot to the back of my, or to the front of my leaf, I should say. Come on, stick, baby. There we go. And we just kind of tuck it in there and press it to the stem of our pumpkin. Isn't that cute? Love it. All right, so let's add our dimensionals. I feel like I'm so not, it sounds like I'm not enthusiastic about this bundle because my voice is just not cooperating and doing the things it normally does. So it's not reflecting the way it usually does, which is not the case at all. I love this bundle and I love pumpkins. So trust me, I am super excited about this suite. Now I'm going to pop a mini dimensional behind my leaf there, just so that it stays put. We'll get rid of our backing. Okay, and then I forgot to add a leaf here, but it's easy because we can just kind of pull this up and again just sort of tuck it on like that. So again, I'm going to add just a couple of glue dots here just because they're nice and easy, if they work. Some days they work better than others. Hi Sue, how are you? How's the stitches? I hope they're healing and your pain is better. So again, we're just going to kind of tuck that in and then press that. Isn't that just the cutest little touch? I love those little leaves. All right, so now I have a very vanilla stitched rectangle, and on it we are going to stamp our Gather Together sentiment. So again, this is from the Pretty Pumpkin stamp set, and I've got some early espresso ink. So we'll ink that up. Oh, I had just re-inked this and I forgot that I had just re-inked it. Let's just get rid of some of that. Sometimes when you have a freshly inked pad and you forget, you press a little hard, it gets a little bit goopy. There we go. That's beautiful. All right, so there is our sentiment. And again, there are 3 little leaf die cuts in this die set, so I cut one of each. So I thought, why not add just a little die to the end of our label there. So we are going to add one more. Actually, I'm going to put my glue dot on my label. Good gravy. My glue dots are not cooperating today. They don't want to come off the roll. All right, so we're going to just tuck that in there. Okay, and then I'm going to pop this up as well. Now this is going to overlap my pumpkin, which is already popped. So I'm just going to put dimensionals on this side and a little bit of tape on the side that's going to overlap. So we're just going to go kind of 1 and 2 there, and then a wee bit of tape. Oh, still sore, Sue. I'm sure it is. That's a lot of stitches. Not so nice. All right, so we're going to add our sentiment label right about there. Now I am going to tuck a mini dimensional in under my leaf again on this side just to make sure it stays put. And we'll get rid of our backing. Hi Mavis, how are you? Thanks for joining me. And then our last little touch on this is a cute little linen thread bow. I have gone through more linen thread in the last few weeks. It's a perfect fall embellishment. Well, it's perfect embellishment any time of year, but it just really works for sort of fall imagery. And I love the natural texture of it. It just so works for fall. So I'm gonna leave my loops fairly large on this one and trim my tails. And then we're gonna grab a glue dot, if it'll come off the roll. They haven't really been cooperating today. We're gonna just press our little sort of rolled glue booger into our pumpkin, and then we're gonna apply the knot of our bow right there. And there's our cute little card. Isn't that sweet? Such a cute, that would be a lovely Thanksgiving card, or even an invitation to Thanksgiving dinner. If that is something that you are doing in your area. I know with COVID restrictions, there will likely be some limits on Thanksgiving gatherings again this year, but isn't that just a pretty fall card? I just love it. All right, so that is number 1. Number 2 is this card that I posted earlier. Now you're either going to really like this or you're going to really hate it. If you are not a purple person, you're probably not going to like this card very much. I was playing around with color, and I do not use, I like to challenge myself occasionally to use colors that I don't use very often. And Rich Razzleberry is a color I hardly use. And I don't know why, it's a lovely color, but it's one I just don't reach for very often. So I decided I was going to create a pumpkin card that featured Rich Razzleberry and or Blackberry Bliss. So this is what I came up with. So I'll show you how I did it. So we are going to start with our card base. We're actually going to do some stamping on the card base. I don't often stamp directly on the base. I generally add a layer, but again, I thought I would depart from the norm, try something a little different. So there's my base. I've just folded it in half. It is 4 1/4. We started at 4 1/4 by 11, and then I folded it in half at 5 1/2. Okay. Here I have a piece of Blackberry Bliss Designer Series paper. So this is from the Color Family stack. It's from the Regal stack. And it's that beautiful plaid pattern. Okay. It is cut to 2 is it 2? Yes, 2 by 4, no, 2 by 4.25 inches, because it's going to layer across the front of our card base like that. Now, I wanted to add a little bit of texture to my background. So to do that, I'm going to use this solid leaf image and some Blackberry Bliss ink. So I'm going to start, I'm going to want my panel to kind of go across right about there. It's about 1.25 inches up from the bottom of my base. So in order to do that, I'm actually going to just kind of slide my DSP up a little bit and then take my leaf image and stamp a few times across my card base where I'm going to layer my DSP. Okay, you'll notice that I'm kind of rotating my stamp each time. Then I'm going to come back across and I'm going to stamp off. Okay, and that's going to add some nice depth and texture to our background. Okay, so you're going to see how those leaves are going to peek out from behind our DSP. I need to add one more right there. Okay, all right, so then I'm going to do the same thing across the top. Well, not across the top, but above where my DSP is going to go. So it's going to go right about there. So I'm going to want my leaves to go kind of there. So I'm just going to pull this down again a little bit. I'm going to rotate my stamp so my leaves are kind of pointing upwards. And again, I'm going to stamp some leaves all the way across. Okay, and then again, I'm going to come back across, stamping off once each time. And just add some really nice texture to my background. And that way, when I go to layer my DSP, I have that lovely layered effect. Isn't that pretty? Really like that. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Mavis. All right, so we are going to go ahead. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to use our ribbon first because we need to add some gold shimmer to this. So I have some gold shimmer ribbon. This is the 1/4 inch gold shimmer ribbon that is in the annual catalog. We have some 3/8 inch gold shimmer ribbon in the mini, which is currently on back order, but this actually I prefer. I love the gold shimmer ribbon from the mini to shred and use the threads from. Love it. But in terms of tying bows and using ribbon as is, I prefer this particular one on my cards. So I'm just going to add a piece of ribbon across my card. I'm not going to be tying a bow on this one. I know some of you are probably thinking, wow, it's not only her voice that she's lost. She's lost her mind. Don't you worry. I'm good. All right, so there is our DSP. Now that's going to get layered across the front of our card. So I'm just going to use a little bit of tape to run. What I like about seal is I can go right over top of my ribbon and it just kind of secures everything. Now, when you are going to stick down panels like this, you want to make sure you're getting them straight, right? So use your grid paper. It is your friend. Use your grid paper to get your pieces straight. Okay, isn't that pretty just as is? Now this is flopping a little bit, so I'm going to add just a glue dot kind of underneath the ribbon. It's going to get covered. We won't even see that part, but just so that my next layer sticks down flat, I'm just going to put a little glue dot under there. Okay. All right, next I have this gorgeous label that is cut from the gold Shimmer Vellum. If you have not checked this out, you need to, because it is beautiful both for fall and for the holidays. It's got this beautiful shimmer and shine. I'm not sure how well it shows on the camera, but I've used the largest label from the seasonal labels dies to cut the shape and then embossed it using the Time Worn Type embossing folder. So we are going to layer that onto the front of our card, okay? And because I have a whole lot of stuff that's going to go over top of this, I'm not going to worry too much about where I'm putting my adhesive because most of it is going to get covered. So again, we're just going to make sure this is nice and straight and layer that onto the front of our card. And with the embossing, you can't even see the adhesive behind it, okay? All right, now I have some pretty pumpkins and some vines that I have already ahead of time heat embossed in gold. So there are two different vine images. One has the full flower and a couple of leaves. The other is just a bud and one leaf. But when you layer them together, they make a really pretty sort of vine effect. So I've already colored these. I used my light Blackberry Bliss for the flowers and my light Mossy Meadow for the leaves. Okay, now for my pumpkins, we are going to go ahead and color those. So to start, I'm going to do my large pumpkin first, and I'm going to use my light cinnamon cider. Now, just a tip, when you are coloring heat embossing or a heat embossed image with your blends, you want to take care not to run over top of the embossed line too much, because the blends are actually like a Sharpie, right? So if you go over top of the embossing, you're going to lose some of the shine and shimmer from it. All right. There's actually a technique that you can use where you take your Stampin' Blends and color an image that is heat embossed in white. It's a really cool look. So we just want to take care as we're coloring this to make sure that we're not going over the heat embossed lines, so that we have our nice gold shine and shimmer and color coming through. So we're just going to do this as quick as I can, but again, I have to be careful. Not something I can rush too much, because we want to make sure our outline still looks gold. Oops, went out of the lines there. That's okay. If I had brought it over, I could use my color lifter to lift that up, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just blend it out. Okay, so there is my large pumpkin, and the cinnamon cider I think is a great color for that pumpkin. Then we're going to use our dark pumpkin pie. Hi Martine, how are you? And I'm going to color my sort of chubby pumpkin here. So again, I'm just going to take care as I'm coloring to make sure that I'm not covering up my gold embossing. I want to make sure we're still seeing that gold coming through. You see how the pumpkin pie totally covered up my little oopsie outside the lines? Can't even tell. Gotta love it. One thing I really love about stamping is it's a lot more forgiving than people think. A lot of people put pressure on themselves to stamp perfectly every time. If you could see how many mistakes I make, well, if you've watched my videos for any length of time, you'd see how many mistakes I make. But you know what? That's part of it. Making mistakes. There are no mistakes in stamping. There are only opportunities to embellish and be creative. So there we go. Oh, we have a little bit up here. A little bit of orange there. Okay. And then, because I was using purple, I decided that purple pumpkins were a thing. I don't know if they actually are, but in my crafty little brain, I decided that this little pumpkin here was going to be a purple pumpkin. Now, do you guys know the song One-Eyed Wano Horn, Flying Purple People Eater? Well, I decided that this was my little bitty chubby purple pumpkin instead of a purple people eater. I know, my brain, the way it works sometimes, it's kind of scary. My students at school told me the same thing. So let's just color this little guy in. Cute little purple pumpkin. And for those of you who dislike purple, you're probably going, wow, she's ruining a perfectly nice pumpkin by coloring it purple. If we can have blue pumpkins, we can have purple pumpkins, right? Right. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. All right, there are our cute little pumpkins. Now to color the stems, I'm actually going to use my dark cinnamon cider. Now for this one, you kind of end up having to go over the gold embossing. There's kind of no way to avoid it. But it doesn't really look too bad. So we're going to color each one of the stems in the dark cinnamon cider. And then I've got one more leaf to color in the light Mossy Meadow. And again, with the leaves, it is a little bit trickier because of all the veining and detail that's added in the stamped image. It is a little bit harder not to hit the gold embossing. So for the leaves, I kind of gave myself permission to color over top of the embossing. So we'll just get these last couple of bits of our leaf and we're ready to go. There we go. There are our pretty little pumpkins. Aren't they awesome? I love this image. And I like the size of it because it can be your focal image on your card. So they are going to go across the front of our card. Now, before we glue these on, we're actually going to stamp and punch our sentiment because we kind of have to have an idea where our sentiment's going to go before we glue on our pumpkins. So I have here the Thankful for You sentiment, but I only want the So Thankful. So I'm going to use my Blackberry Bliss Stampin' Write marker, not Stampin' Blends, okay? Look at the difference, okay? Stampin' Blends are square, they're alcohol-based. Stampin' Write are round, they are water-based. All right, so you want to make sure if you're going to be trying to ink a stamp that you're using Stampin' Write markers, not Stampin' Blends, okay? So I'm going to very carefully ink only the So Thankful portion of my stamp. So using markers like this is a great way to extend or give you additional options with your sentiment stamps. So there we go, we've inked up our So Thankful. I'm going to just give it a little huff and puff. And I've just got a piece of scrap here. I'm just going to stamp on my scrap. Isn't that pretty? Love that font. And then I'm going to bring in my Label Me Pretty, Label Me Lovely, Label Me Something. Label Me Fancy, maybe. I think that's what this one's called. And we're going to slide our stamp sentiment in there and punch, and we get that pretty little label. And that is going to tuck in behind our pumpkins, okay? So keeping in mind that I am going to add my vines here along the bottom. And I kind of want my vines to run sort of where my ribbon goes. So I'm going to put my sentiment right about here, my pumpkins right about there, okay? That kind of gives me an idea of where I'm going to position everything. So we're going to add our pumpkins first. Let's put that back where we had it. We'll add some dimensionals to the back of our pumpkins. Oh no, oh good. I have a fresh sheet. Goodness me, I thought it was out of dimensionals for a minute. So let's add a couple of dimensionals and we'll get rid of our backings. Thank you, Martine, for loving my color combo. It's a rather unusual one for pumpkins, but I thought it worked. So there we go. All right, so there are our pumpkins. Our label is just gonna go on flat. We're not gonna pop this guy up. So we'll just add a little bit of tape and kind of tuck him in behind and just make sure he's straight. That's the hardest part, right, when you're doing this, is making sure these little guys are straight. And then our vines are going to run across sort of the bottom of our little pumpkin arrangement here. So the easiest way I found to put these on was actually to put some mini dimensionals right along underneath my pumpkins, because these guys are going to get popped up. They're going to run just like that. Okay, and this one's going to tuck in here behind. Then I'm going to go, actually, you know what, while I'm at it, I'm going to add a half mini to the very ends of my vines. So these little kind of curlicues here, we're just going to add a little half mini on here so that they lay flat. Okay, it's pretty easy for them to get caught when you're putting them in an envelope if you don't secure them. All right, so let's pop this guy on. Oh, we should probably get rid of our backings on our minis here. And we'll get rid of this guy. And we're good to go. Okay, so here goes our larger flower. And then this little guy is going to tuck underneath and kind of run off the other side. Isn't that pretty? I love that vine image. It's just so lovely. All right, so simple. Now, I was really torn, so you guys are going to have to help me decide, okay? When I was making, my take your pick does not want to stay out of the way. When I was making this card, I could not decide whether or not to add a bow, okay? Now, normally, I would say a bow is always a good idea, and that's still kind of my, it's my mantra. However, I couldn't decide if it was too much, so I left it off of my sample, and I'm going to make a bow here, and you guys are going to vote on whether or not I should be adding the bow. Okay. All right. So here is my finished one without the bow. I am going to add the bling in a minute. Now, where I had originally thought was to add the bow. Now it's kind of too big. Let's make the loops a little smaller there. Otherwise it's going to take over our card. So I had thought to add a little bow right here. So what do you think? Bow or no bow? Let me know. Nobody has an opinion on bow or no bow? What do you think? All right, I'm getting crickets. I'm hoping you guys are still out there. I'm gonna leave this one just sort of sitting here. Okay, Martine says bow. Violet says yes, says no. Oh, Martine says no bow. Jill says no. Martine says, or Violet says yes. Krista says a bit further down. So like down here, Krista? Is that what you're thinking? Mavis says yes. Judy says no. Wow, we are torn. We could put the bow up here. No, that covers up our sentiment. We could put the bow there. I don't know. Okay, you guys are seriously like, it's kind of like neck and neck for bow versus no bow. Let's put the bling on and then we'll see if that makes a difference in your opinion. So we're gonna add a couple of these beautiful little gilded gems. They come in 3 sizes. So I'm using one of each size, making my little triangle. And then we have to decide if we're gonna put the bow on or not. We could try it on this side. What about putting the bow on this side? No, don't like it there. If it's gonna go on, I think it has to be on this side. We could maybe make our tails a little shorter. See what I mean? I was really torn by this decision. Judy says no. Mavis says yes. Jamie says yes. Krista says yes. Jill says no. Martine says no. Violet says yes. All right, how's this? We're gonna leave this guy, or my original without a bow, and this one we're going to leave with a bow. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll post this a photo of the two, and you guys can vote. Okay, I'll post it later on this evening, and you can have a vote, and we'll see whether it's team bow or team no bow that wins. All right, now I'll just quickly show you what I did on the inside of my sample. I just added a basic white layer, stamped some more vines, and colored them with my blends. Okay, super simple, but there we go. Finished card number 2. I clean up my mess here a little bit so we don't have bow bits everywhere. All right, our last card is a fun fold. Now I love making fun folds. It's always just an extra little twist to add to our sort of repertoire of cards. So this one folds flat for mailing. Okay, you've probably seen this one before. It's been floating around for quite a while. But it also will stand up on a desktop. Okay, so that's the front of the card. On the back, we add just a basic white panel to add a sentiment and have a spot to write a message. But this is a super easy fun fold that has a real fun wow. Martine, I probably could make the bow smaller. Yes, I probably could. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do this one. Pretty straightforward. So we're going to start with a piece of early espresso cardstock. It is 4 1/4 by 9 1/2. Yes, 4 1/4 by 9 1/2. And with the long side at the top, I'm scoring at 5 1/2, 6 1/2, 8, and 9. Okay, so 5 1/2, 6 1/2, 8, and 9. Then I'm going to start folding. So I'm going to fold all of my score marks inwards. So you'll notice I'm folding all of the pieces so that they kind of curl around, and that's going to form the base that our card is going to sit on, like that. Okay, now before we glue that on, we need to decorate. So I have here a piece of this beautiful Beauty of the Earth DSP. I featured this suite last week. It is cut to 4 by 5 1/4 inches. We're just going to layer that on that large background panel. And I like to make sure my branches are going upwards. I don't know, branches can go any which way, but for this one I kind of made sure they were going upwards. Okay. Then when I go to glue this on, this is going to glue, I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive along this little 1/2 inch flap here. And what's going to happen is that is going to glue on like that. Now that can be a little tricky to get this perfectly square. So I'm going to show you a nifty little trick. Okay, when I go to close my card, I'm going to show you on my finished one. Do you see how this bottom piece kind of squishes flat like that? So what ends up happening is these two pieces end up lying flat against the base of the card. So a really nifty little trick for getting this little panel glued on is to put our adhesive on our little 1/2 inch piece. I'll do that right now. Then I'm just going to fold, not the first score line, but the second one. I'm going to fold it under. and then just kind of squish my card down. And then when I pull it back into place, I have a nice square base. Okay, so that's just a little tip for how to get that glued on and make sure that your base is square so that your card will sit up. Okay, all right, now we're going to add a little bit more DSP to the front panel here. So this one is 1 1/4 by 4, and it's going to glue on just along that front panel there. I think I like it better that way, so we'll do it that way. So we'll add that little bit. And when I'm gluing this, I just want to make sure that the edge of this background piece and the edge of this little piece on the front line up. It bugs me when they don't. All right, so there is our base. It's pretty just like that, right? Love it. Now, to do our little pop-out piece, we need another piece of early espresso cardstock. This one, just to double check, is 6 by 3 inches, and I've scored it at 4 and 5 inches. Okay, so 6 by 3, scored at 4. So if I put it in with the long side at the top, 4 and 5 inches. So once again, I'm going to fold my score lines inwards. Now this one is going to adhere. Oh, what did I do here? Oh, almost made a mistake, but I didn't. I saved it. So I'm going to fold my second score line down. This is going to adhere onto the front of my card. And I'm doing this kind of sideways so I can see the top edge of my DSP. But what I'm going to do is put some adhesive along this panel right here, this piece right here. I'm going to fold this shut, and I'm going to center this early espresso piece on my DSP. Okay, I want to make sure it comes up to the edge of my DSP but doesn't go over. If I put it too high, then my card isn't going to fit my envelope. Okay, so I'm going to again add some adhesive. We're going to fold this over. Okay, so now I just have that 3 by 4 inch piece, and I'm going to adhere it onto the front of my card, centered, and just press it into place. Okay, now it looks like that. Pretty simple, eh? Now with that pressed flat, I'm going to again apply a little bit of adhesive to the bottom piece right here. And then again, just fold that over and stick it down. Okay, so assembling the card when it's lying flat ensures that it's going to lie flat and fit into your envelope, but also make sure all of your pieces are square. It's easier to do it when it's lying flat than when it is popped up. Okay, all right, let's do a little bit of decorating on this one. So this is another piece of that Beauty of the Earth DSP. It's cut to 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 inches, and it is going to layer onto that front pop-out panel just like that. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue just so that I can wiggle it into position. I love this design too, Krista. It's one of my favorites. It's really versatile. Actually, next week I'm going to show you a different twist on this design. So you'll have to come back next week. That's my little teaser for next week. All right, so there is our decorated card base. Now you could do just about anything with this, right? You could certainly use the coordinating dies from the Beauty of the Earth suite to decorate your card, but we're all about pumpkins today, so we are going to use some more pumpkin images. So I'm gonna pull out the rest of my bits here. First, I should mention I have this beautiful, large, very large leaf die cut. This is from the Beautiful Leaves dies. I'm going to be featuring these in a few weeks. Actually, no, I'm featuring it next week. It's part of the Blackberry Beauty suite, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So again, I've cut this from some more of that Beauty of the Earth DSP. So pretty. Now we're not going to use all of it. What I love about this die cut is it's so large, you could get like 3 or 4 cards out of this, getting just little sort of leaf accents out of it. So it's great because you cut once and then you have all kinds of leaves that you can use. Now, before we do anything with the leaves, I'm going to show you how to get that layered look with your pumpkin. So here I have a die cut gold pumpkin. Okay, I've got adhesive sheets on the back, and then here I have just a scrap of early espresso cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my detailed pumpkin down onto my cardstock. So we're going to get rid of, hopefully most of our backings or our bits will come out. Oh, this one's going better, much better than last time. You do want to be gentle with this when you're peeling your backing off from your adhesive sheets. This is quite a delicate die cut, and it will tear if you're too rough. So we got most of our bits out of this one. We'll just get rid of these couple little guys up on the stem. And we are, as I said, going to stick this down just on this early espresso piece. Okay, so we'll just kind of stick it down on there. And then I'm just going to take my paper snips and I'm going to trim off the excess cardstock. So at first I kind of wondered, like, why didn't Stampin' Up! Include a solid die or solid image die that's the same size as this to put behind it? But honestly, why? It's pretty darn easy to just lay it down on cardstock and trim around it. I mean, a pumpkin is a pretty basic shape and it's not hard to cut. But this is a great way to get sort of a solid contrasting color between that beautiful detailed die cut. And I really feel like that the dark early espresso really makes the gold pop. So we're just going to trim this all the way around. There we go. Isn't that pretty? This is an aptly named bundle. Pretty pumpkins. All right, so now I need a few leaves to kind of have sprouting out behind my pumpkins. I'm just going to take my leaf die cut here and just kind of trim. Okay, so now I have some leaves. We're going to adhere that to the back of our pumpkin. So we'll add just a little bit of tape to the back of my pumpkin. And we'll just adhere our leaves, just like that. So easy, right? All right, so that is ready to adhere to the front of our card. Now we need to keep in mind our sentiment, which I have already heat embossed, is going to run along the bottom. So I don't want to put this too low so that I don't see much of my pumpkin, right? So I'm going to put this up a little bit higher so that my pumpkin, well, is visible behind my, my label. And again, we're going to use some dimensionals because we can and because I love them. I really need to find out where they make these dimensionals and buy shares in whatever company makes them, because I will single-handedly keep them in business for the foreseeable future. All right, so we are going to put our pumpkin on fairly high up. Okay, again, keeping in mind that our label is going to run across the bottom like that. Okay. Then we have another heat embossed pumpkin. This one I heat embossed in gold on cinnamon cider cardstock, and look at how pretty that is. This image is just so, so beautiful. I love it. Now we're going to go ahead and glue this on. So again, it's going to overlap here, this one that's already popped up. So I'm just going to add a couple dimensionals beside my large pumpkin here. And a little bit of tape to the part that's going to overlap. We'll get rid of our backings. And we're just going to pop that on right about there. Okay, isn't that a cute little fall scene? Love it. All right, so here we have our sentiment. I've already gone ahead and heat embossed it in gold and die cut it using the stitched rectangle dies. Now this is going to run sort of along the bottom of our pumpkins, but we're going to add some more leaves because we can, because we have lots. So again, I'm just going to trim off a few leaves from my die cut here, and we're just going to add them sort of peeking out from behind our sentiment. Okay, now you'll notice this is a naked sentiment. So you know my rule about no naked sentiments. There's kind of an exception, and that is when the sentiment is heat embossed. I really like the heat embossing to kind of take center stage. And if I did some stamping on top of this, it just wouldn't have the same effect. So again, that's my own personal preference. Yeah, I'm a little quirky, so you can totally disregard anything and everything I say and do your own thing. I am totally good with that. All right, so this is going to run, as I said, across the bottom of our card here. Most of it is going to go over top of our popped pumpkins. So to make sure that the bottom of our label adheres, we're going to, again, add a couple of mini dimensionals just along the bottom here, right below our pumpkins. And we'll get rid of our backings. And then we are going to pop this on, centered, hopefully-ish, on the front of our card. Oh, you know what I forgot to do is add some tape to the back of my label. It's not going to stick very well if I don't add tape. So we'll pop that on right about there. Okay, and there is our almost finished card. We're going to add a little bow, and we'll add our background panel. So look at all that I have left over from all those leaves. Now this guy I can use on another project. That's why I love that die so much. It's one run through the machine and you get so many leaves. All right, so let's add our little bow to our pumpkin. Again, I'm going to my go-to linen thread. So we're going to tie a cute little bow. And I love the contrast of sort of the raw texture of the linen thread with the gold foil. I think that's a really great contrast on a card. And I'm going to keep my tails fairly long on this one. And again, we're going to add a little glue booger here. We're just going to tuck it at the base of the stem. And then I'm going to press the knot of my bow into that little glue booger there. Okay, isn't that pretty? So pretty. Now on the back, I'm not going to take the time to stamp my vines here, but I am going to stamp my sentiment. I just need to stamp off the Blackberry Bliss that's on here. We're going to stamp it in Early Espresso. This piece of basic weight cardstock is 4 by 5¼ inches. And I'm just stamping in the Early Espresso. And it is going to get adhered to the back of our card. Now I have found that your card will stand up better if it has this panel on the back. It just adds a little bit of counterweight and it helps it stand up nice and securely. Okay, just like that. There you go. You like that one? I love, love, love this little pop-up card. It's super easy, but again, a nice little way to change up your card designs. All right, I'm just going to clean up my mess here a little bit and bring back all of our projects. So there's 1 and 2 and 3. There you go. Hope you like those, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, Martina, I love the fonts too. They're just so, so pretty. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I apologize that my voice is not what it usually is. I'm really missing it. You don't realize how much we take advantage or we take our voices for granted and how much a part of our personality our voices are. So I thank you for hanging with me, even though I didn't sound like myself. And I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.